Schools play many roles within a community, hosting sport, career-building functions, carnivals, and of course all-round education. But how do we perceive schools as a business when it comes to making sure everyone gets what they pay for? Ticker Ed starts right now.
Ticker Ed, in association with Enquiry Tracker, empowering schools to manage and grow inquiries and online enrolments.
Hello and welcome back to Ticker Ed, where we will be unpacking all things education from K to 12 right through to university. And whilst Enquiry Tracker, the Inquiry to Enrolment software solution, is the presenting sponsor of the program, the opinions expressed in the following segment are of course our own. And joining me now is my regular co-host and founder of Enquiry Tracker, Greg Campitelli. And today's topic, something I think is very close to the heart of businesses like Enquiry Tracker, and we're talking schools as a service.
Yeah, customer service.
Yeah.
At Enquiry Tracker, we always know about how important it is to create future families as your raving fans. Because if schools can create those positive experiences for families, whether they're past, present or future, that's their core business. And we really know that the key to that success is developing that beautiful relationship with those people, so they keep telling their families, their friends. They're on the modern day water cooler, which is called social media. And if you can, schools tell us, we know, that the biggest driver of selection is positive word of mouth. We agree to that. What is one of the biggest influences of word of mouth? Great customer service.
Absolutely. So I notice here we're talking about customers. That's the focus, right? There's certainly a fundamental shift in how we view students and their families. Have we made that shift to education as a business mindset, do you think, across the board, or what's it been looking like for the last few years?
I think it's taken a while, and it's not particular to Australia and Southeast Asia. It's a global phenomenon. Traditionally we always saw education as that not-for-profit sector with a humanistic rather than a commercial focus. But families weren't the customers under this model. They were simply users of the system, but they were the grateful client. But that's changed. Over the last 20 or 30 years, we've seen a shift with users now seeing themselves as, regardless of the fees that they're paying, as the customer. And this has forced what's called a transactional relationship. It's a product purchase, for want of a better word. Schools get big places, big organisations. They've got often large fees, donations, grants, etc. They're governed by boards and departments and districts that you're accountable to. You've got to have good governance. They're often have lots of facilities, valuable assets, art centres, large blocks of land, with parents or governments paying large amounts of monies to fund that education, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you think about it, if schools start seeing themselves as businesses and their families as investors in purchasing product, which is often one of the largest investments you're making outside of a house,
of course, then
you've got to see that person as the customer.
Yeah, very good rundown there. God, I'm getting sweaty thinking about all of those costs adding up when you think about it. But I noticed essentially schools need to recognise families, is what you're saying, and the parents and the students as well as paying customers and deliver great service as any business would, right?
Sure.
That kind of what we're lining it up. What does a good example of that look like,
Well,
I suppose, Greg?
Look, our guest will unpack this because he's the expert in this space. But, for me, it's 4 key tenets of great customer service. You've got to optimise the experience, be welcoming, create that sense of community, make sure you adopt a service-orientated mindset. I call that the white glove service. You think of that Downton Abbey experience.
Oh, yes.
Be transparent. Do what you say you're going to do, and account for it. And make sure your communications are beautiful. Email, phone, voice, messaging. Be clear about that. Be proactive. At Enquiry Tracker, we call it adopt the concierge model.
There it is.
Welcome to our school. How can your experience be fantastic? Be family focused, not school focused. Great time to bring our guest in.
Perfect time. Well, let's welcome our guest today, who will give us a bit more insight into all of this. Rob Norman from Inspired School Marketers, all the way from Pennsylvania in the USA. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. Firstly, Rob, tell us briefly a bit about Inspired School Marketing and what you guys get up to and what you offer.
Sure. Inspired is a free online resource and community that provides what we like to say are brilliant ideas and brain food for anyone doing marketing and communications at a school. And that's not just the director of Marcom, it's the director of admission, the head of school development, anyone who's involved in communications. And by providing these resources, we have blogs, podcasts with thought leaders, case studies, best practices, a photographer and filmmaker guide. We conduct the Brilliance Awards. What we say that we want to do is make your job easier if you're doing communications at a school.
Yeah, it sounds like a well-rounded experience.
It is indeed. It is. Rob, you've been in this space a long time. So tell us, why is it important for schools to adopt great customer service?
Well, the fact is that today's consumer expects great customer service. That's just how it is. And buyers of any product or service expect customer service. And that includes schools. Now, you already mentioned that our schools are businesses, even though there are still a lot of people in the space who don't want to see it that way. But as our schools are becoming more and more expensive, and as you already mentioned, it's probably the most expensive purchase a family will make other than buying a house. That makes it all the more important that you provide that great customer service. And in fact, today, our school families demand customer service from their schools. Just so we're clear, the customer service that I'm talking about is timely, clear communication, having administration and faculty who are responsive, showing a caring attitude when problems arise, and dealing with those problems in a fair and quick way, being sensitive to a family's needs, and really, really, really importantly, delivering on your brand promise. As you mentioned, Greg, doing what you say and saying what you do and providing the promised services.
There we go. That's Greg doing a good service right now with his email.
Yeah, my email pinged and I should have had it on silent, Rob.
No, that's all right. Is it just, Rob, is it just the admissions process that need to have great customer support? I understand that might be the understanding of a lot of families and parents out there, that it's just that admission, get them in the door and away we go. But does it go far beyond that in what you've seen?
Way, way, way beyond that. Certainly the admissions process is really, customer service is really important. I would say critical to that process. The admissions process is where your relationship starts with a family. That's where those relationships are built. And prospective families, if they sense in that process that your service is not up to snuff, they very possibly could just move on. And as I said, it's definitely part of your family's evaluation of your school. But it's also just as critical with existing families. These are your paying customers. They have every right to demand great service, and you should be providing it. This provision of the customer service contributes, really importantly, to retention. And retention is critical to your school's long-term health. So as they say, it's easier to keep a customer than get a new one. And as Greg mentioned, word of mouth is almost always the number one way that schools hear about, or families hear about your school. So that word of mouth, the way your existing families talk to other people about your school when they ask them, is critical to that relationship being set off properly. So if an existing family has a great relationship with the school and they think the service is great, they're going to share that. Way more importantly, if it's not, they're going to share it. And they're not going to share it just on social media. When they meet somebody in the grocery store and they say, "Don't your kids go to ABC Academy?" And you say, "Yeah, they do." Well, you start talking about it. If that service isn't good, it's going to come bubbling to the surface very quickly.
So, Rob, in a few words, what are the hallmarks of great customer service? I can see principals frantically scribbling notes and say, give me the hallmarks, Rob. Give me the magic gold, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. What are the non-negotiables?
Well, certainly great communication. Certainly understanding the needs of that family. Understanding the needs of that specific child, communicating whenever there's an issue in a clear, consistent, compelling way, and making sure that, as I said earlier, and I go back to it, the brand promise is a contract with your existing families. You need to be willing and able to provide them with all of the facets that you say you're going to provide them with on your website, your enrollment materials, anything. All of those things are hypercritical to the relationship with those families. And they view it as, they expect it, they demand it, and you have to provide it.
100%. Rob, thank you so much for joining us on the program and sharing your insight into this space. It's certainly interesting to relook at schools as a service and understand it greater. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, Greg, over to you. As always, great guests from you. Tell us through your top tips for schools as a service that you've unpacked for today.
Okay, let's put up our top tips here. Schools need to adopt the concierge model, that white glove service. Remember, as Rob says, all staff have a key role to play in customer service, not just the front of house. And make sure, here's a quick one, conduct regular blind audits. Get someone to come and visit your school and see how they rated the experience, whether it was successful or not. That's a good one, isn't it?
Good stuff from you, Greg. Guys, a thought-provoking show today presented by the team at Inquiry Tracker. And if you'd like to learn more about how your school can use this amazing admissions software, please head to inquirytracker.net. Greg, thanks for joining me on the program.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for joining me on the program, all of you out there. I've been Mike Loader. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Be well.